All right, welcome back to another special edition of The Unknown. And my name is Michael Volpe. I live in Chicago, Illinois. That's in Cook County, Illinois, and the website that I write at, michaelvolpe.substack.com. And Richard Luthmann, my broadcast partner, he's in Florida, around Fort Myers, and definitely in Lee County, named after Robert Edward Lee. Luthmann, Luthmann.substack.com. And today we are talking about immigration, the DHS goons. I'll call them goons. I'm sure you're going to have a nicer word for them than me, and all kinds of things happening. Let's start with the video that I think most people have seen, but I think this is what in law is called establishing a foundation. Over the weekend, the DHS goons, they killed another American. Let's take a look at what's happening.
Honestly. The fuck did you just do?
All right, you see anything in there that justifies those guys killing him?
Well, first thing I'm going to say is that it's a very, very tragic occurrence. That
Mhm,
any time that there's an officer involved shooting,
mhm,
okay. Um, the legal rule is the totality of the circumstances,
mhm,
right? So that there was actually a thinner rule, like a more narrow rule that was over recently. That's called the officer's understanding or the officer response framework. But if we look at the totality of the circumstances, which is what the court's going to look at, we're going to have to see everything that comes into that circumstance.
mhm.
And I don't know what those officers heard, and that's going to be a big thing. I don't know if somebody yelled gun or somebody saw a gun. I know there was a gun and there were two clips, and the guy had no ID. Number one. Number two, there's all those whistles. There's a lot of chaos going on. Number three, he's wearing body armor. Okay. Number four, he didn't give himself up. He didn't put his hands down, hands out, and in a
Put
way
his
that
hands
the
up.
officer.
They,
No, he didn't put his hands out and spread out eagle and communicate with the officers. So there could be, from the officer's perspective, a perceived threat. Now, is it something that maybe has to do with the training and of
mhm,
these officers, how they're from different agencies and everything else, and they've been thrown together and they needed a hotel staging point days or even hours before they go out on a patrol? Yes, that has something to do with it, but it also has to do with that we're in a national emergency. We have a national immigration emergency throughout the entire United States. The president was elected to
mhm.
solve that. And I think we're starting to get solutions. Most recently today, Tom Homan sat down with Governor Walz and sat down with Mayor Frey, and they started talking about how they can cooperate. I think
Mhm.
that's
That
going to be it.
doesn't actually answer the question that I was asking, though. Is this justified?
Maybe,
It's not. Maybe. All right. You're a
maybe
bootlegger. You're a bootlegger.
I'm a bootlicker.
At best, and I got some photos. Yeah, that he's definitely a threat there. And as you can see, that's one of the goons throwing. He's about to throw him to the ground. It's definitely a threat there. That's 7 goons on top of him. There he is with his cell phone. He's definitely a threat there. There he is going back. Definitely a threat there. At best. And there he is holding his camera with the other hand on the side. Not having an ID is a flippin' red herring because not having an ID, number one, is a $25 fine. Number two, and most importantly, they didn't know whether he had an ID. He had a concealed carry permit. He never withdrew his weapon. There were 7 guys on top of him. At best, this is reckless homicide, and I'm giving that 10%. It's most likely just murder. Do you know how many officer-involved shootings there were with the Minneapolis Police Department in the entirety of 2025?
The defunded Minneapolis Police? No, tell me.
0. There have been 3.
Defunded the entire department, Mike. That's right. If you're going to defund the department, you're not going to have anything that happens.
Right? Yeah. No, I know. They managed to go the entire year without one cop firing his weapon.
Yeah, because all the guys that are on the job, sit in their cars and they don't want to go do anything.
The DHS goons have shot people 3 times, killed 2 in 6 weeks. So now let's move on to the next one. Megyn Kelly. First of all, let's talk about this. All right. So part of this is that these guys have been using whistles to alert the community that DHS goons are in the area. And Megyn says the whistles should be banned. Should people be disallowed from blowing their whistles if they spot law enforcement?
Well, it goes to intent. Okay. Generally, I would say no, right? But it can change. And it can change when there's a coordinated effort and there's a coordinated intent. It goes to the intent. So if you have a group of subversives that get together and say, we're going to blow whistles, and the reason why we're blowing whistles is to obstruct police operations and to obstruct law enforcement, then that could be a charge. Yes, it's a possibility.
You should definitely take that up with the Google AI, because Google AI says, yes, people are generally allowed to blow whistles in public to alert others, as this is considered free speech under the First Amendment. You and Megyn, MAGA doesn't like the First Amendment.
It's not. He said, Michael, it says generally. So when he modifies generally, what is the exception? All I said was the exception to the rule. Generally, you're right. Generally, I agree. People can go out and blow whistles all they want. When you have a bunch of subversives that come together, and they have like signal chats, and they're talking about how they're going to infiltrate police operations. Then they're blowing whistles as part and parcel to it. Then yes, it could be an incident of criminality. That's what I'm saying.
It could be. So does MAGA like the Second Amendment?
Of course.
Do they?
Sir, was Mr. Preddy acting as an assassin? Do you think he was acting as an assassin in Minneapolis?
Who is that?
Mr. Preddy, your deputy chief of staff said that. You don't think so?
With that being said, you can't have guns. You can't walk in with guns.
What about the Second Amendment?
Listen, you can't walk in with guns.
All right, you can't have guns. You can't bring guns. You shouldn't bring guns out. Does MAGA like the Second Amendment? By the way,
yes. Well, Trump is the chief law enforcement officer of the country, and he's stating the state of the law as it stands in the country. Trump's 100% right that 18 USC 922G, which is the felon in possession law, is still on the books. I believe it violates the Second Amendment. I think President Trump, the NRA, and everybody else does, but the laws on the books are that you don't have an ultimate, absolute, automatic concealed carry right if you are a convicted felon. So law enforcement, in reacting to the scene, can't know whether that person is breaking the law. Number one. Number two,
I didn't realize parking tickets were a felony now, because that's all that guy has.
No, and then beyond that, it's not the law, and the right to carry does not mean the assessment of danger on the scene by law enforcement. You're conflating the two. A right is not part of the risk of danger.
I hate to break it to you, but no one who believes in the Second Amendment would say that just by the fact that you have a gun, that you become any more of a threat than anyone who doesn't have a gun. In
no,
fact,
that's what Congress
gun
says.
rights people will point out that those who carry legally are less likely to commit crimes.
True.
You guys have now
That's true.
trampled
That's
on the
true.
First Amendment, the Second Amendment.
When you have the badge that says federal officer, you know that that person is carrying legally. When you have a holstered firearm, you know that that person is a responsible gun owner. This guy had nothing holstered. He wasn't there to show.
Everything was holstered. Oh my God.
He's an idiot. He got shot because he had 2 clips and he was going to protest and he was trying to be.
He got shot. The gun had nothing to do with anything as the reason he got shot. This is a red herring brought up after the fact. He got shot because those goons ran up to him, pepper sprayed the woman next to him. He tried to help her. Then they pepper sprayed him. Then 7 of them jumped on top of him. Then they shot him dead in the street like a dog. After the fact, to justify anything they did, they said, oh, he was carrying. Legally, he was carrying.
He had protection on him that like he's a militant, like he's one of these revolutionaries on the street.
So you do hate the Second Amendment. All right. So does MAGA love the Fourth Amendment, the one that secures you in your home? It doesn't seem like they do, because they got a memo that allows DHS goons to show up in people's homes and barge in, break down doors. And by the way, the guy from Laos, that's exactly why they did it, because they didn't have a warrant. So they broke into the American citizen's home, grabbed him in his underwear. But I think finally MAGA has reached a bridge too far with Richard Luthmann, and you aren't actually going to defend this.
Well, no, I'm going to tell you what happens. You have stupid government lawyers writing stupid legal opinions that are relied upon by non-lawyers. It happened before with Alberto Gonzalez. He was a stupid person. And that torture memo under the George Bush administration was, it's probably one of the dark stains of American history. This one is an old memo, and it's years ago. I think it was Bill Barr that wrote it in '89. You know and there's this new one. Actually, Bill Barr wrote a memo in '89 that they used to defend, and that's another one. But this new memo is written and saying that a administrative immigration order, it becomes a self-executing warrant. So you're saying that an administrative judge, a non-Article 3 judge, can do an administrative warrant on the immigration context, and that can overcome the Fourth Amendment warrant presentment clause to say that do
you have a problem? Do you have a problem with that?
I do have a problem with that because there's no such thing as a self-executing administrative order that overcomes the constitutional right. Anybody who says that is a moron legally. Okay, number one. Number two, for an instrumental reason, it makes perfect sense for the police officers to take that administrative immigration order, go back, spend an hour, write up a warrant application, go to the magistrate judge and say, this is the last time we observed this person. This is the plan we're going to have going in. These are the places we want to search. This is the things we want to do. And then let the judge sign off on it. It takes an hour to do that, and it saves police lives. What happens is you're going to go busting down doors playing cowboys and Indians. Both the cowboys and the Indians are going to get shot. It's only a matter of time before ICE starts to go in or DHS starts to go in to places, and there are guns on the other side waiting for them. So
well, in some cases, they're going to walk in with a guy in his boxers and take him out because they got this administrative warrant, which is a warrant signed by some low-level DHS goon. And I want to quote from the article, although the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has not historically relied on administrative warrants, and those are the warrants signed by low-level DHS goons, alone to arrest alien subjects to final orders of removal in their place of residence, the DHS Office of General Counsel has recently determined that the U.S. Constitution, the Immigration and Nationality Act, and the immigration regulations do not prohibit relying on administrative warrants for this purpose. Now, if a cop got in a hold on,
100% legally wrong. It's like if you took a high school practical law class you would know that that's wrong. If you learned anything, if you
All right.
read the amendment, you know that that's wrong. How can you have something that's not an Article 3 judge when it says a neutral and detached magistrate? How can you have that be put subordinated to an administrative law judge? It makes no sense. No sense at all.
All right. The argument made is if a cop has an arrest warrant and they determine there is probable cause that the person they're trying to arrest is in a certain location, they can use the arrest warrant to go in, and that is the search warrant.
Michael, big difference. Big difference there.
Before you argue, these final removal orders are the equivalent of an arrest warrant, and so it's the same thing. What's wrong with that argument?
100% wrong, because you misplaced the investigative process for the administrative process. How long does it take to get a final order from an administrative judge in the immigration courts? It could take months to have that. So you've put in information and facts to the judge, submitted them, and then they get stale over the matter of weeks and months by the time that the order comes out. When you have a hot pursuit arrest, right? When you have a hot pursuit bolo, that's a different story. Your information is fresh. It's a few hours old, maybe a few days old, but there's a reasonable certainty that the people are going to be in the places when there's hot pursuit and there's that situation where you're having an investigation ongoing. When you're in administrative court, it takes weeks and months. You know, people move, people change, people come in. I have a situation where it was an armory factory for Tren de Aragua when they fill out the administrative paperwork. 3 months later, there are children in the place, and nobody thought to go look. So that is what's wrong with this. I rely on the cops when they have fresh information. When they don't have fresh information, you know, it's a crapshoot. So no way.
I agree, and also these immigration judges, the courts, they don't have a criminal procedure. They don't have the same criminal standards. So a final order for removal is based on a completely different standard. I agree with you, and this needs to go away. But so far, it looks like Trump and his MAGA buddies want to violate the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and the Fourth Amendment. That seems like it's true. Does MAGA have any compassion, though?
Of course.
Do they? Let's listen to Megan.
I know I'm supposed to feel sorry for Alex Preddy, but I don't. I don't. Do you know why I wasn't shot by Border Patrol this weekend? Because I kept my ass inside and out of their operations. It's very simple. If I felt strongly enough about something the government was doing that I would go out and protest, I would do it peacefully on the sidewalk without interfering, via a whistle, via shouting, via my body, via any other way. I would make my objections known by standing there without interfering, because interfering is where you go south. And laying hands.
He was standing there and he wasn't interfering. And this lady is saying, who cares if he got killed? He was interfering. That warrants death. You guys need to have
Whoa. Megyn Kelly stayed home because she was probably bleeding out of her eyes. Okay, and everybody knows how Megyn Kelly operates. But you know, I don't trust Megyn Kelly. She goes with which way the political winds go, and she's really not that. She's a two-bit hack when it comes to a lot of this stuff. Okay. That being said, some of her sentiments are correct in the sense that there are people that are protesters, that are professional protesters. There's some people on the right that are. Scott Lebedo, my friend. This is the Scott Lebedo flag behind me. I have it right here. I love the guy, and he's been arrested, you know, dozens of times, close to hundreds of times for right-wing causes. What happens when he gets arrested? They ask him for a lawful order to stop, and he puts his hands up, and he's not a threat to anybody, and there's nothing's ever happened to him. He spends a few hours in jail. He gets processed. He goes in front of the judge, and it is what it is. Right. I don't know how that's not a problem here. These people don't know how to behave themselves is the problem. They're trying to obstruct, and the useful idiots are the ones getting shot. The revolutionaries and the criminals, the Tren de Araguas of the world, those are not people getting shot by ICE at this point. The people getting shot are these useful idiots that think that they're part of this grand revolution. It's out of control. It's subversion. That's what it is. People are getting killed through stupidity.
According to DHS, Trenda Aragua, 2 members of Trenda Aragua got shot in Oregon. So they're getting shot as well. You, of course, have to take their word for it. DHS, this lady, Tricia McLaughlin, they've all been caught lying a bunch of times when there's video. So you have no idea what happens if there's no video because their statements can't be trusted. That said, Mr. Preety had his arms up. And we recently learned that a week prior to being killed, he noticed that DHS goons were following some members of his community. He got out, blew the whistle, and then they jumped on top of him, beat the crap out of him, broke one of his ribs, or maybe more than one of his ribs. And suddenly MAGA's like he's a professional protester. It actually looks like there's a pattern of excessive force. Am I wrong?
Well, no, there's a pattern of subversion where these regular people go out and think they're part of this grand revolution. Okay, and it's not. This is not a revolution. This is not anything bordering upon that. This is, this is the Marxist ideologues and the foreign money that is being funneled into the Democratic Party, and then they're indoctrinating people with these ideas that it's okay to go out there, obstruct governmental operations, and there are things to go. Now, if you understand what's going on here, you notice that most of these people are white, Mike. A lot of these people are white in the streets, and especially in Minnesota. This isn't like George Floyd in 2020 because it's about the warm weather. Wait till it starts to get warm, and we'll start seeing the places looted, and we'll start seeing the places burned if Minnesota wants to keep it up. So, and then they're going to be calling for.
Speaking of Marxist revolutionaries, here's 2 of them. They're going to describe their interaction with DHS goons.
Agents who had the audacity to come and try to arrest and kidnap people leaving church on a Sunday morning. We turned into a parking lot and were greeted by approximately 4 unmarked ICE vehicles with agents who immediately stopped us and pointed semi-automatic weapons in our face, asked us to roll down the windows, threatened us multiple times with arrest. I mentioned to them, or I asked them if they had a warrant for my arrest. They said, we don't need one. And they continued to threaten us multiple times, pointing guns at my wife and I's face.
And we were kind of trapped because we had come in and they jumped, they came toward us right away with their guns. And so the only way out was really to back up too.
Jan was very nervous.
I was scared. I've never had.
I've never had two. I don't know why she's nervous. These are 2 paid revolutionaries. I'm sure they've gone through that a million times.
It looks like performance. Mike, you're right. It looks like high performance art. It does. What church are they coming from? These people? Because I don't know any church that I've ever been to. Holy cow! They look like they're wackadoos out ready to go to protest. What church is this? That's what I want to know. What church are they doing operations in? Tell me. The only operation was the Don Lemon operation in church. That's the only church operation I saw.
All right. So, Gestapo Greg Bovino has been sidelined despite what lying Trish McLaughlin will claim. But I think if Trump really wants to turn this around, here's what he's got to do. He's already gotten rid of Gestapo Greg. This guy's got to go. Kristi Noem and her boyfriend, Corey Lewandowski, those 2 go. If he gets rid of all 4 of them, I assume if he did that, he would make Holman the DHS secretary. I would make Ron DeSantis the DHS secretary, but I can't even run for president. I was born in what was then the Soviet Union. But I would definitely get rid of all 4 of these. His approval rating would go up over 50%. If he then combined that with the end of all tariffs, he'd be at 60%. But he won't do that because he's committed to this policy. But I did want to point out that Miller initially claimed that Alex Preety was there to assassinate people. And now that it's been proven he wasn't actually there to assassinate people, he said Miller also appeared to blame both the border agency, that's Customs and Border Patrol. It was their officers, not ICE. It was CBP officers who killed Mr. Preety, and the Department of Homeland Security for his comments on Saturday when he claimed that he was there to assassinate, which have since attracted criticism. Shortly after the killing, Miller called Preety a, quote, would-be assassin, accused him of wanting to murder federal agents. But Miller has said those comments were based on an initial statement by DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, who falsely said Preeti was brandishing a weapon when he approached federal agents. I have a question for you. If you blatantly present misinformation about something as important as the killing of an American by DHS goons, is that reason enough to be terminated?
He was relaying facts as they were presented to him.
There's
And
no facts.
I don't think he's wrong about referring to Peretti as a would-be assassin. I think brandishing obviously is a factual wrong. But you don't know what the intent of this guy Peretti is, and until we have the full workup, and there's a lot of stuff coming out about his background now. Mm-hmm. So if he's a radicalized subversive carrying a gun, carrying a couple of clips, then it's all on the table. Okay. That being said, that's not necessarily wrong for a Miller to say. Now, the bigger point, Mike, is that you want to
hold on. Speaking of subversive, I've got an article up from Andy No. That is ngocomment.com. That's his Substack, Andy No. He does some good work, some work that's ridiculous, but you keeps calling them subversive, and it's largely based on this Signal chat that this guy Cam Higbee found. And so tell everyone why everyone in this Signal chat is a radical.
Well, what they're doing in that Signal chat is they're organizing. Okay, they're organizing obstruction of governmental operations. This is what's coordinated efforts. This is what's going on around Minneapolis, or was for the past few weeks. And the question is, who are the ringleaders of it? Well, one of them we know is the lieutenant governor of the state of Minnesota. They were one of the admins on one of these chats. And who are the financiers? Well, we know that there's a lot of foreign-backed money going into this paid agitation program. The Chinese Communist Party, Russia, Iran, George Soros. So those are where the money trails lead back to ultimately. Those who want to destabilize the United States of America, and those who want the globalist world order in place and to defeat the
Have you actually seen this money trail?
I showed a lot about the money trail, yes, because you see a lot of these
from this Signal chat to George Soros.
Without question.
You've seen the money trail from the Signal chat to George Soros.
Through the Democratic Coalition against Donald Trump and Scott Dworkin's PAC, which receives foreign funds.
Rich has seen no money trail. This is a right-wing fantasy or a dystopian belief that all of this is organized and funded. Mr. Preeti was a nurse at a VA ICU. He's probably making $150,000 to $200,000 a year. I can assure you, he did not need the side hustle. He wasn't doing it for the money. Most of the people involved in this aren't doing it for the money. Now, hold on. You said they are. You didn't use the term impede. Other people have used the term impede. Did you know that there is actually a legal standard for impede? There is actually a legal, right?
18 U.S.C. Section 111.
Right. Now, if you are standing on the sidewalk with your phone camera out and videotaping people, are you impeding?
Probably not.
Okay. If there is an unmarked DHS goon car in front of you and you follow them and you are behind them the entire time, are you impeding?
Depends.
No, you're not impeding.
How do you know, Michael?
Because unless you get in their way, you are not impeding. That is actually the standard.
Is there a conspiracy to impede? Is there a Signal chat where they're all being told, or an app where they're all being told to let's impede law enforcement. Make sure you hold up your camera so it looks like you're recording them. So you have the operation of the law. That would be impeding, Michael. That is a fact that could be charged.
You have suggested, though not outright claimed, but you have suggested that Mr. Preeti was impeding CBP goons. Can you provide any evidence of his impeding?
Well, if he's connected to that larger group that's there, and that goes back to what I first said at the very beginning, totality of the circumstances. Who are the people blowing the whistles? Who are the people throwing stuff at the ICE officers? Who are the people doing different things, holding up cameras and everything else? Are they a coordinated group that's there for the mischief of obstructing governmental operations and obstructing ICE? If they're there to do that, they've opened the door to all the harm that befalls them. So yeah, if he's a good faith person there by himself and he's a good Samaritan trying to help the woman next to him, that's the leftist narrative. That it's a different set of facts than if he's part of that coordinated group. And so we need to do a post-mortem to figure out exactly what's the case. And the FBI is doing that right now, and so is Homeland Security.
Right, I know. Yeah,
It's not pretty about pretty. Things about pretty that are coming out are not very pretty. Okay, so just keep stay tuned.
Right. They'll investigate that a lot more than they'll investigate his murder. I'll tell you that much. There's no evidence he was impeding anyone. He was standing on the sidewalk for a period. He was waving his hand as cars went by, the way that most people do when they want a car to go by, when they are basically saying, I'm not going to cross. And then he stepped to the side. He had his camera out. One of the CBP goons ran up to him, pepper sprayed the lady next to him. He tried to protect the lady. Then he got pepper sprayed. Then 7 guys jumped on top of him. Then 2 guys shot 10 bullets into his head. At no point, or into his different parts of his body, at no point was he impeding. That's a lie by the legal standard, by any standard. He wasn't impeding. You guys want to claim he was impeding because then that gives some sort of legal justification for what these DHS goons did. However, he wasn't impeding. Now, I wanted to get this up. This is Miramar Martinez. She was shot 5 times in Chicago before being charged with assault and then having those charges dismissed. She and her lawyers are now asking that the body cam footage, and apparently there is body cam footage, be released so everyone can see what the DHS goons did to her in Chicago. The reason I bring it up is because this isn't unique to Minneapolis. This was happening in other localities. We saw a lot of this. It didn't quite rise to the level of killing anyone, fortunately, in Chicago, but DHS goons engaged in all sorts of excessive force in Chicago. Go ahead. Anything you want to say about Miss Martinez? Did the preschool teacher deserve it? Did she deserve to get shot 5 times?
Is that, and we've seen this with Tom Homan meeting with Frey and with Waltz, is that the Democratic leaders are starting to recognize they have responsibility here for the people dying because they've programmed their activists and their populists as useful idiots to run out there and put themselves in harm's way. And so now they have to actually call them back. They have their people, and these activists are very, very stupid people. They go from, free Palestine on one day to Ukraine the next, and now they're running, stop ICE. And they'll be off to the next thing tomorrow. But when they're programmed and set on this has happened with Renee Good and this has happened with Freddie, they're going to go there and get themselves killed. And the Democratic Party automatically, look, if you want your people to keep dying because they're idiots and they're putting themselves in harm's way, then they will. ICE has a job to do, and they're disrupting governmental operations. It's actually something that we have to recognize, that the Democratic Party leaders are putting their own people, they're sacrificing their own people because they're useful idiots. That's where we are.
Is it your position that the Democratic leaders of Minnesota, Jacob Frey, Tim Walz, Keith Ellison, and others, are more responsible for Mr. Preedy's death than the CBP goons that shot him?
Keith Ellison is a Muslim, and he would have Sharia law.
That's not the question I asked you.
I say 100%.
Let's try it again. Let's try it again. Is it your position that the Minnesota Democratic leaders, Tim Walz, Jacob Frey, Ellison, and others, are more responsible for killing Mr. Preedy than the CBP goons who actually put bullets into his body?
Yes, they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
I got you. You guys are doing great. MAGA is doing great. I did want to get this up. I think this is I think this is what I was going for. Walz. All right.
could, and I would call that out. I mean, that's just different. In verbally going at it, my argument is much better. In making the case that housing prices are up because of immigration and that we should build on federal lands, it was such a crazy thing. But then when I watched him, I got sucked into that. And if you remember, this was right in that moment of eating dogs and cats. I took that bait and thought that that was the argument of how outrageous it was. That was not the argument.
And he said that your cops are liars. He said that the
no,
ICE agents aren't.
They all did. That's exactly right. That this is the problem with them. And well, the president said it, that we told them to stand down. Do you think they would do that? Do you think that police would not protect citizens, no matter if I'm like, oh, don't do this? But yes. Well, this is the whole paradox with these guys. They don't back the blue. They don't back police. January 6th proved that. Fanone and the rest of those guys will tell you that. They back the blue when you're with them. I would beat the shit out of him now if I could, and I would call that out. I mean, that's just different.
So I wanted to get that at the beginning. He's referring to J.D. Vance. There's no question that both sides are using all kinds of ridiculous rhetoric. I want to talk about one other thing. So Trump says the reason they are there, the main reason they are there, what would stop all of this is if the state of Minnesota would just cooperate with DHS goons. So I went and looked it up, and I was shocked to learn that the Minnesota Department of Corrections honors ICE detainers. I've done a lot of stories on this. What happens is when someone is placed into a jail or into a prison, if DHS finds out that they're deportable, either they're an illegal immigrant or a non-citizen who's committed a big enough crime to be deported, they can place a detainer on that person. And then once their prison sentence ends, that prison or jail doesn't release them. They hold them. A DHS has up to 48 business hours. If they don't get them in time, they will release them at that point. And the Minnesota Department of Corrections honors those. Every ICE detainer that has been given to the MDOC has been honored, and they have given those prisoners to ICE to do with what they want, presumably to deport them. So since the Minnesota Department of Corrections honors detainers, I want to know what in the world is Trump world talking about when they say that Minnesota is not cooperating with DHS.
Well, I'll get to that, but the first issue is Tampon Tim just lied 30 times in 30 seconds. Okay, to say that back the blue and this that. Yeah, of course you don't back. They think cops are not going to help people. Yes, they're not going to help people. They're going to sit in their cars when not on patrol, not get out of their car, not walk patrol, and not do anything to help the populace when they're handcuffed by a defund the police centric state and local government. So that's the problem. You have cops that act defensively for themselves, to protect themselves and not to protect the public. They're not allowed to do their jobs. That's number one. But this issue here with corrections, that they honor federal and local detainers. Okay, well, that's one thing. That is the transfer of prisoners, people that are already prisoners, already in custody. Okay, we're not talking about that as part of the operation here. The operation here we're talking about is taking people that are on the streets, the over 2 million bad dudes that Trump needs to get rid of, and taking them and sending them back to where they came. They're not in prison right now. They're not in custody. They're not in the county jail. They're on the street. They're rapists and murderers. They're sexually abusing children.
So what I hear you saying is that the Minneapolis Police Department does not cooperate and does not hand over an illegal immigrant that they detain to ICE.
No. What I'm saying is that the Minnesota Police Department sits in their cars and the precinct.
No, there's no Minnesota.
That's why there's no crime in Minnesota. There's no crime in Minnesota, Michael. Because there's no cops on the street.
Minnesota Police Department. There's a Minneapolis Police Department, and they may be a sanctuary city. However, if you're blaming Tim Walz for the actions of the Minneapolis Police Department, you're blaming the wrong guy. That's Jacob Pratt. If your problem is with the Minneapolis Police Department, send your goons to Minneapolis, not St. Paul, not Lakeville, not any other surrounding areas. So I again ask you, what is
It's a
Trump
distinction
world
without a
talking
difference,
about
Mr. Volpe.
when they say that Minnesota isn't cooperating?
It's a distinction without a difference, Mr. Volpe.
It's not
if your grandmother died in a nursing home during COVID, are you in New York City? Are you going to blame Andrew Cuomo? Are you going to blame Bill De Blasio? Or are you going to blame them both? It's a distinction without a difference.
It's not a distinction without a difference.
Dead. Their own people are dying. They don't care. These people are just terrible people. They're soulless people. That's what they are.
Right.
They're
And
terrible.
that's
And they should be
another.
prosecuted. That's it.
And that's another thing. Is illegal immigration a huge problem in the state of Minnesota?
Michael, you just said it. It doesn't take a rocket science or you don't have to be Einstein's cousin to know that illegal immigration is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's illegal. That's what it is. What are you looking for here? More on illegal immigrants? What are they going to say? Per capita, is there more illegal immigrants in Minnesota than Florida?
No. Oh, it's interesting that Trump has sent a bunch of his DHS goons to Minnesota, even though per capita, there's a lot more illegal immigrants in Florida. Do you know why he sent them to Minnesota? Do you want to know why I think he did? Because he doesn't like Tim Walz, he doesn't like Somalis, he doesn't like Ilhan Omar. This is political, and as a result, 2 Americans are dead in an operation that has nothing to do with anything.
But DeSantis is cooperating with law enforcement. There's been huge operations rounding up these rapists and killers and child abusers. They've got them all and get rid of them.
There aren't 3,000.
There's a steady stream of them going out. And in Minnesota, they're being protected. In Florida, there's no quarter for these people. Come on. Come on.
Right. Miami has a Democratic mayor, and they're a sanctuary city. And DeSantis can't do anything about that.
It's not a sanctuary city. You don't have sanctuary cities under Florida law.
He hasn't sent ICE.
You cannot have a sanctuary city under Florida law, Michael. You cannot have a sanctuary city.
You can have a sanctuary city.
Go back to Google. Look it up. Are there sanctuary cities under Florida law?
Under Florida law? All right.
Are there sanctuary cities under Florida law? What happens if you're a sanctuary city under Florida law? Oh my God, Michael! Florida does not currently have any recognized sanctuary cities.
Very good. Very good.
Oh,
you got it right.
That's why the free state of Florida is so beautiful.
You know what? So what you're saying is they don't need DHS goons because they're already cooperating. That's what you're saying?
Florida, and we do things legally here. Legally.
All right.
What are you looking up now?
I'll see if there's any other states that have sanctuary cities. So you're saying the reason that they send DHS goons into Minnesota is because there are sanctuary cities.
Yes, because the enforcement is happening. Just because there's a lot. Listen, just because there's a big problem, right? There's a big problem, right? You have a ton of toxic waste in one place, but you're removing 50 tons of it every day.
Right. If there
big of a problem as a place where there's a less amount and you're only getting 1 ton out every month. Right. You want to get rid of the toxic waste the same way you want to get rid of the immigrants. The illegals are there. The illegal immigrants got to go. And the drip coming out of Minnesota is a drip. But Florida, there's more, but it's coming out in boatloads. That's what you want. So you want to get Minnesota turning into Florida. That's what you want to do from an enforcement perspective. Michael,
so again,
it's not good for you, Michael. You're losing
again, what I'm having struggle with, despite your correct assertion there's no sanctuary cities, is if that's true, how come there are less illegal immigrants per capita in Minnesota than Florida? And how come we're not sending DHS goons? If what you're saying is true, why is the rot bigger in Florida?
Because they got the Mexicans to pick the strawberries.
Right. So then why aren't we sending DHS goons into Florida, 4,000 of them, to go pick them up if there's so many of them in Florida?
Well, they're a lot of them are gone now. A lot of them are out.
They're not gone.
A lot of them are out. All the bad hombres Trump got rid of the bad hombres in Florida, and he's getting rid of more bad hombres in Florida.
The bad hombres get picked up in prisons. Why isn't he sending 4,000 DHS goons to Florida? If there's more per capita and total, because Florida has a lot more people, why isn't he sending 4,000?
Spot for them to go up. No, they're picking them up, but there's only a matter of time before they pull up to the Home Depots and pull up to the soccer field on Saturday mornings. Come on, you know that.
Right, okay. And the Home Depots is where you're going to find the criminal illegal aliens, right?
You never know.
You never know. Indiscriminately picking up people at Home Depot is how you're going to find the criminal illegal aliens.
That's what you're advocating for, Michael. You're advocating people going to Home Depot and soccer fields. So if you want to do that to window dress for the fact that Minnesota, don't target our Minnesota people. Don't target our revolutionaries up here. Go pick up. Okay, fine. What are you saying? Go to Home Depot and go to the soccer field. That's what you're telling them. That's what they're doing. If Michael Volpe was the border czar, the immigration czar, Michael Volpe would go to Home Depots and soccer fields in Florida.
I would.
Would you go to California too? Why don't you look up California? How many illegals are in California, Michael?
I'm sure there's a lot. He went to LA. He didn't go to any other cities. But there's illegal immigrants in other cities besides LA. If I was the border czar, I would adopt the Barack Obama policy and focus on the prisons and deport all the criminal, all the illegal immigrants and the non-citizens who have committed a big enough crime to be deportable. That's what Barack Obama did. And he deported about as many people as Trump did. And you just become ruthless with that part of it. By the way, at this pace, it will take 20 years for us to deport all the illegal immigrants, assuming there aren't any new ones. And he has pretty much sealed the border, so there probably will be very few. He won't be around for 20 years. This is not really doing anything. It's a show. 2 Americans are dead. I think that this was a galvanizing moment, Mr. Preety's death. And I think that MAGA is on the wrong side of this. And these tactics are abhorrent, despicable, and they are a way of the past. And if Trump keeps them up any longer, for every moment he keeps them up, he loses votes in November. But the public has turned against this. His base is desperate for it. They're all loonies. They think that this is somehow actually going to round them up and get rid of them. You're not. It's a drop in the bucket, all of these. They were in Chicago for, 4 weeks. They grabbed about 1,500 people. There's probably 100,000 illegal immigrants in the Chicagoland area. You can be in Chicago for about 5 years before you'll grab all of them. So none of this does anything in terms of actually fixing the problem. It's all for show, and 2 Americans are dead, and it has galvanized the public against Trump, against this policy.
In a heartbeat, Michael, I would trade Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Northern Illinois for Alberta and Saskatchewan. In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Well, you would. You would. All right, everyone. We are done.